Heyo everybody, Haku here for a discussion on One Piece. Gonna talk about a bunch of different things here because I was like, I have a bunch of different thoughts about One Piece right now that I don't want to split into like a bunch of separate videos. Let's just talk all in one video. For those of you watching this a few weeks after, or even a few months after when I post it, if you're not watching it exactly when, we are just after chapter 1018, I think. I could be off by like a chapter. I am not exactly good with remembering the exact number all the time. But we're on the week break waiting for chapter 1019, I think. Just wanted to let you all know, so if you're watching this like months behind, you'll know exactly when we were at when I had these thoughts. But yeah, one thing I think that's going to take up the majority of this conversation is thoughts on potential future Straw Hats. And when I say that, I mean like in the immediate, right after Wano/Onigashima sense, not in the grand scheme of things. Like I know there's a lot of people that talk about Caesar Clown coming back or Vivi coming back to join the crew. There's a lot of people that talk about that. I might briefly go over that like at the end or something, but that's not really what I'm here to talk about. Also, guesses for Yamato's devil fruit, if they even have one. But yeah, just a general discussion because I had a ton of different thoughts. And I'm really, really into One Piece right now. I've been enjoying Onigashima a lot. Honestly, I felt like Wano before Onigashima was one of One Piece's weaker arcs. I just wasn't really getting into it that much. I mean, when I say one of One Piece's weaker arcs, I'd probably still give it like a 7 out of 10. It was still really good. But just to me, it wasn't one of the best. But ever since we got to Onigashima, I've really, really been invested a lot. That and lately I've started to catch back up to the anime. I fell out of the anime around the Katakuri fight. And lately now, just seeing how great some of the newer stuff looks, I've really been trying to catch up on that. So yeah, I've just been really enveloped in One Piece content, and I wanted to talk about it a bit more. So first off, I guess I'll talk about Yamato's devil fruit. And in terms of if I slip and say he or she, when it comes to Yamato's gender, I'm kind of like, sometimes I say he, sometimes I say she. I usually try to say they, but I'm kind of all over the place because I'm in the camp that when it comes to Yamato's gender, like, there's a good argument either way. Because on the one hand, again, Yamato refers to themselves as he, and so does Kaido and Luffy. But on the other hand, right now, Yamato is just trying to be Odin, and has even said, Odin was a man, and therefore I am a man. So I think a big part of Yamato's character is going to be us learning deeper about who they are, and sort of finding out who Yamato is, not just I want to be Kozuki Odin. So I think once we get to that point, we'll be able to say one way or the other for sure. But at least for right now, again, the Oda box says female, which is different from the way that Kikunojo's was done. So again, it's more questionable, whereas Kikunojo is like definitely a woman, like a trans woman who is a woman. But it's a bit more questionable with Yamato, so I kind of stick with they. But when it comes to Yamato's devil fruit, I think the biggest thing that I constantly see people saying is the maybe what would it be in Japanese here? I guess the mythical Neko Neko no Mi, the Byakko or the white tiger, to contrast with the Seiryu devil fruit that Kaido has. And I think that's a pretty solid guess, but there's nothing immediately about Yamato's design that makes me think, oh yeah, white tiger. And because of that, I don't know if the horns are real, if the horns are just a headpiece, because most of the members of the Beast Pirate have like horn headpieces or hats. But I kind of get this vibe that my guesses for it would either be a mythical Hito Hito no Mi similar to Sengoku's, only it's the Oni devil fruit. So we would have model Oni of the human fruit. And we could have an Oni form, a human form, and a hybrid form there. Or another one that I kind of like more, I kind of like this guess more, is we could have an Oni devil fruit, but not necessarily just like horned ogre type. Right now I'm reading another manga in Jump, Witch Watch, where Oni or ogres are treated as sort of a descendant, a combination of the ancestors of tigers and oxes. So it's sort of a tiger-ox hybrid, and also like sort of looking into like a bit of like folklore and what's the word I'm looking for, mythology and stuff. In some sort of representation of Oni, they are represented like that, as like part ox, part tiger. So I actually think more than just the Byakko, I'd really like sort of an ox-tiger hybrid type of Oni devil fruit. And it would fit with the horns. We could still get sort of tiger type of transformations, and we could even see like partial body transformations, like what Marco can do, where only part of the body transforms. So Yamato would be able to just like be like arms of a tiger, head of a bull, and just headbutt something ulti style. I think that'd be an interesting one. But yeah, more than Byakko, I think I would say I'm going to go for an Oni Devil Fruit over a Byakko Devil Fruit. Another thing with the Byakko, people could bring up, well, Marco's here too, but Marco's Phoenix Devil Fruit is much more like a Western mythology Phoenix, and not really like the Eastern Suzaku very much. And then there would be like no character in Onigashima right now that we know of that would fit the Genbu role. So that's why I would say maybe not. And also, like, even though Kaido's is like the Seiryu and he's an Azure Dragon and everything, I feel like a lot of what Kaido's Devil Fruits mythology might be hinting towards is, I don't remember what the story is. Am I thinking of the story of like the seven colored fish or something? But I know there's one story that like they always say like in Pokemon, it's like what Magikarp and Gyarados are based off of, or maybe Phoebus and Melodic, where the koi swims up the waterfall, and at the top of the waterfall becomes a dragon. And that's what I think more Kaido's is hinting at. That's why it's like the fish fruit model dragon. And of course we have the waterfall that lets you go up into Wano, so I kind of feel like that's the folklore that Oda's drawing from there for Kaido's Devil Fruit. So again, I don't think necessarily that a Byakko Devil Fruit is like a certainty or even like a super high probability. Also, we gotta take into account that just because, like, everyone's like, oh yeah, they're totally like Kairoseki handcuffs, the shackles or whatever, we could always be wrong, and Yamato doesn't have to have a devil fruit. Yamato could always just straight up not have a devil fruit, and that whole part of this discussion is really, really, really pointless. Now, when it comes to talking about Straw Hats, and potential Straw Hats coming out of Wano / Onigashima, I think the two biggest ones to talk about are Yamato and Carrot. I also want to talk a little bit about Momo and Tama as well, because they're like the four that have the most going for them as potential Straw Hats, the ones that kind of make the most sense, some more than others, and the ones I see talked about the most in the immediate sense. So yeah, in the immediate sense, looking at those four, Carrot is one that, of course, I love Carrot, one of my favorite characters, so I'm not going to be like super duper objective or anything, as if anyone could be. But the thing with Carrot is that Oda could totally go either way. So here's the thing, going throughout Whole Cake, what I loved about Carrot's story is Carrot fit the Straw Hat mold perfectly, absolutely perfectly. One of the criticisms since then, like if she would have joined at the end of Whole Cake, I would have been like, makes absolute, complete 100% sense for Carrot to join after Whole Cake. But then we just go into Wano, we don't have any like official joining or anything, and then again, I guess you can bring up that Jinbei's joining was on and off and on and off up until just recently. But yeah, Carrot didn't do much towards Wano, which is one of the big criticisms I see for her joining the Straw Hats, and I think that's a fair criticism. And then on the other hand, when I think about it, I'm like, most of the Straw Hats didn't do anything during Wano, or didn't do much of consequence, and when they did, it was like kind of sparingly, few and far between. So again, it's like, on the one hand, that's kind of a good argument. On the other hand, you can kind of already say it about the people who already are Straw Hats. I honestly feel like Carrot could end up in a situation where we get to the end of Onigashima, the Straw Hats are about to leave, and Luffy's like, I thought you were already part of the crew. Like, almost like an Usopp sort of thing, where Luffy's just like, I thought you were already here. You've been here like 3 arcs. What are you doing? So I kind of feel like we could get that sort of situation for Carrot. Either way, I feel like in a way Oda would be dropping the ball a little bit after how good her development was throughout Whole Cake to just say, yeah, never mind. It almost feels like he was writing her to be a Straw Hat, but then got cold feet about it. So that's an interesting one. But before I get deeper into why Carrot fits so perfectly or why the other three would fit, I want to talk about the biggest thing that every Straw Hat and also Law has in common that I really don't see people talk about enough, that I think is like the big thing that generally makes a Straw Hat. And that's one of the first things ever said in the series, maybe the first thing, I don't know, I would have to look back at chapter 1, probably the first thing because of the anime intro, and that's in sort of Roger's speech, inherited will. He always says inherited will, and that's something that is written in a very blatant, in your face, like just very overt way for every single Straw Hat, and also arguably for Law, but not for other characters. It's like other characters that people thought might join the Straw Hats in the past did not have that. But the people who did join did have that. Now, they might not right away, like Nami's we wouldn't know until like the Arlong Park stuff. Robin's we didn't know until NES Lobby when we got her flashback and everything. But Inherited Will is a character following their own dreams, but their dreams have been inspired by somebody else, or it was shared with another person, or another person pushed them forward to follow those dreams, and they're not doing this just because it's what they want to do, but also because they have inherited the will of somebody else. Law's a bit arguable. You can say that he, like him just living on, is inheriting Corazone's will, so you can argue that for Law. But other than Law, most of the, I would say pretty much any character other than the Straw Hats doesn't have that in a very direct and obvious way. Like for Luffy, it's not just Roger because of the lineage of the Straw Hat and because of him also wanting to be Pirate King, which was what Roger did. It's not just Shanks and carrying on Shanks's will. It's also Ace and Sabo that he is carrying on the will of. But in addition to all of that, we don't know like who Joy Boy was, or if there were multiple Joy Boys, or what all of that even means, and if he could be carrying on the will of D itself. But yeah, Luffy's, it's very obvious. It's Zoro is Kuina, again, a very, very obvious one. Usopp with his parents, Sanji with Zeph, and I guess you could also say his mother in a way, since she inspired him to want to be a cook. Beyond that, of course, Nami, it's sort of her mother and her village. For Chopper, it's Dr. Hiruluk and arguably Kureha as well. For Robin, it's Saul and her mother and her entire culture, really. Frankie, it's Tom, again, sharing the same dream as somebody in the past and carrying on what they wanted. For Brook, it's his crew that he lost. And for Jinbei, it's, I would say, like, a lot of people would probably jump to Fisher Tiger, but I would say more importantly it's Otohime for Jinbei, and wanting to carry on her will of this equality between the humans and fishmen, and giving fishmen this sort of cultural freedom to live equally among humans on the surface if they so choose. Like, again, I feel like that's where Jinbei's inherited will comes from. And so then we get to Carrot in Whole Cake, and we see that for Carrot, again, unlike pretty much any other character in One Piece besides the Straw Hats, with hers, it's absolutely Pedro. Pedro's will was to see to the dawn of the New World and to push the Straw Hats forward once he sort of realized or came to the conclusion that they were the dawn that he was waiting for. And with him gone, Carrot sort of takes on that will. She's been traveling with the Straw Hats. She can see what Pedro was able to see. So then we get to Wano. She doesn't do much. We get to Onigashima, and I don't want to pass judgment too quickly, because her and Wanda got defeated by Perospero. A bunch of other characters like Nekomamushi said, oh, we'll handle him then. Then Perospero shows up toward the Marco versus King and Queen fight and does some stuff, shooting some arrows. So none of them obviously attacked Perospero yet, but Carrot and Wanda were defeated after the moon went behind the clouds and they lost the ability to be Sulong anymore. So again, is Carrot, even with the last words that Perospero said to her, to a point I'm like, oh, it totally makes sense that she would lose to him. His bounty's like 700 million. That's a lot. That's like over twice as much as I think any other Straw Hat besides Luffy. But at the same point, I don't know. Oda could go either way with this. He could say, Carrot's not a Straw Hat. Oh well, you're out of here. You were an arc traveling character. Or she could totally join and it would make absolute sense for her to join. Carrot's just in such a weird position. Because it felt like to me after Whole Cake, I was like, oh, she's obviously joining. And then she didn't. And then I'm like, wait, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't follow the formula. So yeah, I'm not quite sure where Carrot's at now. I really feel like Oda could go either way. But my hope, my dream, is that Carrot would join and then Yamato also joins. That's what I want. What I want is both Carrot and Yamato to join the main crew of the Straw Hats. I don't think we're going to get a bunch of people are like, oh, Marco's going to join as one of the Grand Fleet and have a bunch of people. Oh, Katakuri's going to do that. Oh, Carrot's going to do that with the Minks. I don't even think we're going to get any more Grand Fleet captains. I feel like the Grand Fleet might be set where it is with just those 7 doing their own thing until we all meet back up at whatever that prophesied event is. So I don't think we're going to have a bunch of characters joining like that. So I don't think that's an argument for Carrot not joining to me. So yeah, again, she could go either way. What I want is either of them joining. What I least want is Momonosuke joining, even though he kind of makes the most sense if we're judging past formulas. Just recently, I had never heard of the 4x4x4 male, female, male, male formula that everybody has been preaching. But if you don't know, again, just to run over it real quick, it's that we had 4 join in the East Blue, then 4 on the Grand Line, and now 4 for the New World, and it went in an order of male, female, male, male. If you ignore the fact that Nami didn't really like officially join until like the 5th member, but if we're going by that pattern, again, I think it can still fit with Jinbei being the male, then Carrot female, and then Yamato is male. I think that, again, Oda could be writing Yamato like that on purpose, so that we'll just be like, okay, in the end, Yamato's male, that's where Yamato counts. But again, Yamato could totally not join. It could be Momonosuke. So let's get into talking about those 2 and Tama. I guess I can talk about Tama real quick first because I think Tama's the least likely to join. Tama has been an MVP on Onigashima, but Tama's powers are extremely, I guess limited. They're like very situational, very situation specific. And so when it comes to the, like, sort of each member of the crew being strong combat-wise, Tama doesn't really fit in there. Tama's kind of just, sorry, hiccup, a little kid. So, yeah, I really don't see Tama joining, even though you could argue that she carries on Ace's will. She wanted to travel with Ace, and now she could go with Luffy. I think in the end, she's probably going to stay on Wano. I don't see her joining. Again, you could make arguments for it, but yeah. Now, Momonosuke is an interesting one, because more than even Yamato, we can look at Momonosuke and say, he has all the reason in the world to have inherited will. He knew Odin personally. He was involved with this whole Odin flashback and knows more about Odin's relationship with Roger and everything. And he could have more of a reason to carry on Odin's will. But at the same time, I kind of feel like the things that Momonosuke wants are a little bit different than the things that Odin wanted. The 2 characters are a bit different, and again, it comes into the Momo could grow to be strong one day, but as of right now, Momo's still just a kid. I think to me it would make the most sense if Momo stayed on Wano to rule, even though he is just a kid, because we've been building up his ability to be a figurehead, to be a leader, and we haven't really done that with Hiyori. So at the same time, I also don't want it to be Momonosuke because let's just be real, he has little kid in a shonen manga syndrome. Momonosuke is annoying. Momonosuke is not enjoyable to read or to have scenes with our other characters. I don't want Momonosuke joining just because he's an annoying little shit. Yeah, I'm gonna be real. That's it. I think you can make the argument from what we know right now that he's a better fit than Yamato, but even though you can make that argument right now, at the end of the day, I think he's less likely, and I also hope he's less likely. Now with Yamato, we get something that we don't get with other characters other than Straw Hats. Like I said, we get a pretty direct line to inheriting Odin's will. Yamato read Odin's journal, his diary that he wrote while on his journeys, and would have every sort of reason to do like what Yamato said and be the Odin for Luffy, be the chronicler of his journey. That, again, Carrot fits in very obviously and blatantly a lot during Zoe and Whole Cake as the lookout for the crew. Yamato would fit in perfectly as the chronicler to write down their journey and everything. Again, it's a role that would make perfect sense for them to join the ship, something that Momonosuke wouldn't have other than just being sort of the trainee, the cabin boy. So again, Yamato makes more sense in that way, and makes more sense in the way that, like I said, they didn't know Odin personally, but they would still be carrying on their will, carrying on their dream for the next generation. So it's, again, a bit more of a stretch, but I think it still works, even though it doesn't work as easily logically as Momonosuke. Also, as far as the strength goes, I feel like Yamato's strength is definitely enough to be in sort of like the mid area to, depending on what we see with Yamato fighting, even the upper area of the Straw Hat crew in terms of strength. So again, I feel like it's a situation where Yamato fits more that way as well. The design, I think, works with joining. It's like, it's a good design, but also just different enough from the other characters that are already there. Again, how do I want to put this? Okay, so one thing that I've criticized about Yamato joining, like if Yamato joins and Carrot doesn't join, I'm going to be disappointed because I'm like, Carrot fit the mold a lot more, and I felt like Carrot was a more interesting character. But my one sort of criticism about Yamato's character so far is also a strength. The one criticism I have is that Yamato's character so far is basically just, I want to be Odin. That's basically it. It's pretty much all we got is, I want to be Odin. But what that means is that Yamato's still a blank slate. We can still learn so much more about their personality, about who they are when they're not just wanting to be Odin. Because, sure, that's what they want. They want to be like Odin. But there's probably more to them than that. Like, we don't know about who their mother could possibly be, what their relationship with Kaido is really, truly like. There is so much still left that we can learn about the character. So again, I think that's a big strength for the character, for potentially joining in the future as well. So yeah, I guess, and again, like I said, inherited will, it's something that fits for them, and it's something that basically no other character other than the Straw Hats exhibit, other than Law. So I suppose that would be where we're at right now with the Straw Hats. I think that Carrot should be the next to join. I think Carrot's maybe still the most likely left to join. It all depends. It's all a coin flip on whether Oda just says, yep, Carrot's down for the arc, or whether Oda says, okay, this defeat was a setback, like we see time and time again, like every arc with the Straw Hats, where the Straw Hats get defeated by somebody, then come back and defeat them. She doesn't even have to solo defeat Perisparrow or anything, because like I said, he's like really, really, really strong. So yeah, I still think she's probably the most likely. Then we get into Yamato. I think Yamato's the next most likely to me. But yeah, that's where the main bulk of this discussion is. But I kind of like just sitting here talking about One Piece with you. It's like a one-man podcast almost. Um, but I could also talk a little bit about future Straw Hats. Now, a lot of people say Vivi's going to come back. And maybe what happened to Vivi was that Cobra died and she left with the revolutionaries and she's going to meet back up with the Straw Hats and join. She's already technically been a Straw Hat. I I'm not a huge fan of that just because I don't think she fits strength wise where the rest of the crew is, or development wise with where they are. I think if anything, I know the Hancock shippers are going to be upset at this. If anything, she just makes more sense to me as like an end game romantic interest for Luffy than she does as coming back to join the crew properly as a main member. So yeah, I just don't see it happening. But again, Oda could take the series any kind of ways. You can basically write anything to make it make sense if you really want to. Um, then with Caesar Clown, in the past, I would have thought, oh yeah, maybe Caesar could join. I guess that could make sense. He is a scientist or whatever. But there's, on the one hand, a lot of people like, you can't really forgive the things he's done as easily as you can forgive the other Straw Hats with any of the bad things they've done. And on the other hand, also, he doesn't really have Vegapunk's inherited will. Unless we get a hella bad, chopper level, like, sad, emotional, I'm bawling my eyes out backstory for him, I don't think Caesar's joining. I think that one's kind of a no from me. But yeah, I suppose that is it. Some Yeah, I guess that's it. If there's anything else that you want me to talk about or you want to discuss about One Piece, just throw it down in the comments. We can talk about it there whenever. So I guess I'm gonna end the video. Like I said, just a big discussion on this. That I wanted to just talk about One Piece stuff because I enjoy One Piece a hell of a lot. So that's where I am with most of the stuff going on now. Like I mentioned, as an arc as a whole, I thought Wano was a little on the weaker side, but I've been loving Onigashima. The only criticism I could possibly have is that we jump around a lot, and I really want to see a lot of this stuff on panel, like the Robin fight. I need to see Robin finally get another fight, like on screen, on panel. That's something that I really, really want. But yeah, we just have a lot going on, and I would like to see most of it happen, rather than just cut back to them and, oh, this person's been defeated. But again, I think Carrot and Wanda got that treatment, but that might be a story-related thing if Oda is having them get defeated in order to come back and to learn from that, or, the usual Luffy method. So yeah, that's really the only criticism I could possibly have. I've been really liking it lately. So yeah, I suppose that's it. If you did like the video, and comment down there to tell me what you thought about these topics, my thoughts on them, One Piece right now, anything like that. Again, if you want, we can just discuss any of this or much more about One Piece, or if you want me to make a video on other One Piece topics, just let me know. In addition to that, yeah, if you want to join the Discord server, talk about One Piece there if you want. It's free and open for anyone. Just ask and I can give you a link. Or if you want to just hit me up on Twitter and talk there. I really, really try to do my best to answer everybody and talk to everybody as much as I can. My voice keeps cracking. It probably sounds terrible. Subscribe if you want, and if you want to help support the channel on Patreon to help me to continue to make videos, it's patreon.com/Haku of the Tubes, or a link will be in the description. Probably does me a little good to shout it out at the tail end of each video rather than at the beginning, but I don't know. I don't like to make people sit through the whole like and subscribe spiel at the beginning. I can just tack it on to the end. So yeah, guess that's where we're at with One Piece. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.